Hello, and welcome back to the TapD demo series. I'm Hannah with Lightning Labs, and this is a series of short demo videos walking through using the Taproot Assets daemon, TapD, from install to mint to send to burn. So what we've just done in this series is mint some assets via the CLI, and now we're going to mint some assets via the API. So let's talk about that. If you've not yet used the TapD APIs, if you're thinking about building with them, then you're definitely going to want to be familiar with this website. These are the API docs. So up here, lightning.engineering/API-docs/API/taproot-assets. All right, this has got all the information on all the various API calls that we can make. We can do that via gRPC or REST, or of course, we can use this via the CLI. And here we have examples via gRPC, REST, and on the command line. In this series of videos, we're using the REST API with some Python scripts. So we'll go have a look at our scripts here. We're going to be minting some more assets today. But first, a couple of things I want to note. When we mint assets, right, we're creating all this data about the assets, and then we're going and committing to this data on-chain, right? So we need to make on-chain transactions. If in the process of doing this, you run across an error that says something like unable to fund PSBT, that means either you don't have any funds in your LND wallet, which you need to be able to make these on-chain transactions, or perhaps you had all your funds in one UTXO, you sent out a transaction and you need to wait for that change transaction to come back to you. So just something to keep in mind. And let's go and start by looking at how I'm connecting to my node. So over here, this is my TapD testnet node, which is running on a separate server. And then I have these Python scripts, which is just running on my local machine. So to connect to that server, first what I've done is I've gone into the TapD config file on my TapD node on that server and allowed incoming connections at this port, which is the REST port. So I've done that, and then I've got a copy of the admin macaroon file and the TLS cert, which we need to pass along to be able to communicate with and get permission to talk to our node. So this here is just the quick and easy way in which I've dumped this information into the settings file, and then I'm making use of it here in these Python scripts. So let's start first by listing some assets. So in this script, again, I won't go in too much in depth on what's happening here. Most of this is kind of just copied and pasted from the API docs. So you can really look through in detail the examples there. But, I'm doing the basic stuff. I'm pulling in, Python libraries for using the REST API. This is where I'm importing my connection data that I need to get access to that node. This is the endpoint that we're hitting here just to run this list command to see what assets we currently have. And then I have to, format the macaroon. I have to create the headers for my request. In this example, I'm making a GET request, making use of my TLS cert here. And we've got basic error handling Python stuff. Cool. So let's go ahead and run this file or run this script, and we'll see what assets we currently have on this node. And you can see we get back lots of data. This is not formatted particularly nicely for humans to read. So you might want to use some sort of JSON formatter to make it a little easier on yourself. But you can see this is the CLI demo bucks that we've just minted via the CLI. So let's clear that out so we don't have to look at that madness or that unformatted information, really. All right. So we can see that we have our CLI demo bucks that we minted via the CLI. And now we're going to go to our mint script and mint some assets via the API. So here we are in this script. Again, all the things we talked about before, importing Python stuff, our connection information. What we'll note here, it's different is, well, we're still talking to this Taproot assets endpoint, right? We're giving it all our usual information, but this time we have here we're making a post request, and we have to give it some information about the assets that we're minting. So let's walk through that. We're minting an asset of type normal. So the kind of example use case that we're using here is minting something like a stablecoin. So we want to have many units of this asset that are fungible with each other. And we're going to want to mint several rounds of this asset. And in future videos, we'll talk about burning some of those assets as well. If you wanted to create something that was unique or collectible, then instead of type normal, we would have type collectible. And you can check out the docs at docs.lightning.engineering to get more information on how to work with collectibles. So here we're giving it a name. And once again, because we're terribly creative, we're just calling this API demo coins. Or actually, I think, did we use demo bucks in our last example? We sure did. So we will be consistent and we'll mint some demo bucks. There we go. All right, we're going to do an amount of just 100. And here's the important part, right? So we want to look at this at group key and enable emissions. So in this particular example, we are minting an asset that we want to mint future rounds of. So in order to be able to do that, right, we have to create a group key. And this group key then allows us to go back and create more assets using that group key that the protocol will then consider all, fungible with one another, right? So we can mint several rounds of API demo bucks. So on our first minting, we don't yet have a group key, so we can't add it here. But what we will do is down here, we're going to say, and we're going to set enable emissions to true. And that will let tapd node to create that group key for us, which will then allow us to go and mint another round of this asset, which we'll do here today. But starting off on our first mint, we're going to comment this out, but set enable emissions to true. And you see here, we just have our API demo bucks, quantity 100, post requests, all our usual error handling stuff. So let's just have a look here and we will run the script. Cool. So again, this is what we would expect. Look at this state, batch state pending. And as we've talked about before, what this means is that we've created all the data for this asset, but we haven't yet gone and done that on-chain transaction, which commits to all this data on-chain. So if we wanted to, which we won't demo here today, but if we wanted to, instead of just API demo bucks, I could also mint a bunch of Hannah coin or, whatever, I named something after my pets and mint that too, right? And so I'm going to have like 3 different, or many more different types of assets. We create all this data for it, but then go and commit to it on-chain, all in one on-chain transaction, which is really great for saving block space and saving on fees, etc. Won't demo that right now, but very important to note. All right. So after we've created all this data, we have a batch, and this batch is pending. And so we want to talk to this endpoint, Taproot Assets /assets/mint/finalize. And this will allow us to go and do that on-chain transaction, which commits to all this data. So we can go and look at this script, but again, it's all the same stuff as before. We're just hitting this endpoint. This is a post request here. And all our usual things. So we're going to run this and we're telling our tapd node, hey, whatever data you got, whatever batch you got right now, go ahead and commit to that on-chain. So let's do that. Let's run this. Awesome. And that worked. And we have all kinds of asset information here. All right, so that worked. And we have minted our first round of our API demo bucks. But what we want to do is show you how to mint a second round of that. So we need our tweaked group key to go and add to our Python script to make that happen. So I'm going to go back to this list script, and I'm going to run this, and we'll get some data about our new asset. All right, we did a bit of editing there, so you don't have to watch me squinting at my screen trying to find this data. But here for this asset, we have the tweaked group key. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this, and we will want to use this in our next script, the next time we run the mint script, so we can mint another round of the API demo bucks. So again, let's clear this because that is not pretty pleasing to look at. Let's minimize this. And let's go once again to our mint script. This time, we're going to comment out this enable emissions true, because at this point, this is redundant because we're going to be giving it this group key. So let's uncomment this and paste in that tweaked group key, which we'll need to use here. All right, so let's save this. And what we're doing, again, same script, but this time what is different is we're minting this asset once again of type normal. Same name because it's the same asset, right? API demo bucks. We're minting just another 100 in this round. But this time we need to give it this group key, which lets the our tapd node and the protocol know that this is going to be the same asset as the last round, right? Because it's all, it's all under the same group key. So we're allowed to do this, and the protocol will recognize this as the same asset as our previous round of API demo bucks. All right, so let's move this up here a little bit, and we'll go ahead and run the script. Awesome, look at that. That worked well. We now have transaction ID. No, wait, we don't have transaction ID yet. We have batch state pending. So once again, what we've done is we've created this batch, but we haven't yet committed to it on the Bitcoin blockchain, right? So we have created all this data, and now we want to go and commit to this data on the Bitcoin blockchain. So we go back to finalize batch. Don't need to change anything about this script. Again, we're just hitting this finalize endpoint with a post request and saying, hey, that batch you got prepped and ready, let's go ahead and mint that. Let's commit to that on chain. So we'll run this script and do just that. There we go. Now we have that transaction ID. And now we can see the state is broadcast. Cool. So let's go here. Now, I could run this list command for you again to prove to you that we have now minted 2 rounds of our API demo bucks, and you would be able to see that here, but it's a little bit ugly to look at. So instead, I'm going to come back over here and we're going to run the command we talked about before, which is just our tap CLI asset balance, and that'll give us a nice summary. Doing this here just to make it a little bit easier for you to see this asset data so I can prove to you that it did indeed work. Awesome. So we have API demo bucks here for 1 round of minting, which was where we minted 100. And then we have this other one here where we also minted 100. So we can see that we do indeed have 200 API demo bucks. Awesome. So once again, I'll clear this madness out of the way. All right. So in summary, what we have done is we have minted some assets. This time using the REST API and some Python scripts. And we have minted API demo bucks, and we enabled emissions. We created a group key, and then we were able to go back and mint a second round of API demo bucks. As always, if you'd like more information, check out the docs at docs.lightning.engineering, and I'll see you next time.